Welcome to Season 1, Episode 17 of the Phenomenal Moms Podcast. The Phenomenal Moms Podcast is a podcast designed to help single moms to thrive financially and to live phenomenally using biblically based principles. I am your host, Aisha Taylor. So today we're going to be talking about the topic, 7 ways to increase your income without getting a second job. And the reason why I wanted to tackle this topic is because I get a lot of questions about what should a single mom do if she doesn't have enough money to cover her expenses, or she doesn't have enough money to cover her expenses, put something aside, add money towards her financial goals. Like, what will she do if she just doesn't feel like she has enough? And so in today's podcast, I want to address that by sharing 7 different ways that you can increase your income without getting a second job, because I think that it's really important to understand the things that you might be able to do before considering a second job, because a second job will end up taking you away from your kids because you're going to be spending more time at work and less time with your kids. So I wanted you to explore a couple of things before you consider getting a second job. So today's scripture comes from Proverbs 22:7, and this is the ESV version, and it says, "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender." And so this comes from the book of Proverbs, which was written by King Solomon. And so I mentioned this in a prior podcast a few episodes back, just to give you some background about King Solomon. So the short version of this is that King Solomon was the richest and wisest man that has ever lived. And so the thing about King Solomon, which I love about his story, is that he was very wealthy and very wise, but he strayed away from the Lord. And in the latter part of his life, he started to realize that a lot of the things that he wanted, all the material things that he had, all the wives and everything that he had, it didn't matter apart from the Lord. And so the book of Proverbs was written a little bit earlier in his life. But the reason why I chose this scripture is because it talks about the importance of managing your money. And so when it says the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is a slave to the lender, I want you to think about it in this fashion. Because when we as moms, or when we as people are short on our income, what happens? So we might end up going without. We might borrow money, or we might end up charging a credit card, or some people even seek out predatory lending places like payday lenders and things like that. And so when you go out to borrow money, when you go out to charge different things, it's really putting you in bondage. It's putting you in bondage to the person who lent you the money. And so let me give you a story, even in my own life. And so I remember my parents tried to teach me about financial literacy, but honestly, I heard them, but not really. And so I remember just being as soon as I was old enough to get a credit card, I got a credit card and I just charged it because I looked at it as it wasn't real money, because I only needed to pay the minimum payment. So if I charged up $1,000, I might only have to pay $20 a month in terms of the minimum payment. I looked at that as that was something that I could afford. And so because I could afford the $20 a month minimum payment, I assumed that I could afford the money that I spent on the credit card. And so it wasn't until I got my first job out of grad school that I started to understand the implications of my spending. I understood that $20 a month really wasn't $20 a month, but it was really the initial amount that I charged plus interest. I started to understand that refund check that I got from my student loans wasn't really free money, but rather it was money that I was eventually going to have to pay back. And so it really, really just opened up my eyes when I got my first check from grad school, was how much of my income was going to repay old debt. And it especially hit me hard once my student loans were no longer on grace. I looked at it and said, man, this money that I'm paying out of my current income to go back to repay the credit cards that I owed, to go back and repay my student loans, it was a significant part of my income. And it really impacted my ability to do the things that I wanted to do at that time, because I was a slave to the decisions and the spending that I did in the past. And the thing that especially really jumped out at me is that I couldn't even remember the things that I spent my money on. When I looked at my credit card statements, I saw how many times I swiped my credit card to pay for food. And I was just like, I guess the food was good, but was it really worth that amount plus the interest that I was paying over time? Because, with the interest, it becomes interest on interest on interest on interest. You're not just paying back the premium. You're paying back plus the interest plus the premium. I mean, the premium plus the interest. And if you ever look at your credit card statement, there's a section on there that says how much you owe and how much you'll repay if you just end up paying the minimum. And when you look at that, depending on how much you charge, you can end up paying like double what you originally charged. And so it effectively puts you in bondage to your past spending, to your past habits, and it puts you in bondage to the companies and the people that you borrow money from. And so your money right now is not really your money. It's going back to pay. It already has a hold on it. It already has a claim on it. And it's just not available for you to be able to do the things that you want to do right now, or to be able to put as much money aside towards your financial goals as you may have initially desired. And so I wanted to really talk about this in terms of how do you start to dig yourself out of that bondage? What are the things that you can do right now to help to put you in a better position in order to have true financial freedom? And if you don't have, and if you've gotten to the point where you've cut and you can't cut anymore, and I encourage you to take a look at the last few podcast episodes, because I've been really doing a series in terms of how do you start to save? How do you start to put yourself in a better financial position? So I highly encourage you to definitely check out the podcast in terms of how do you save your first or next $1,000, and even the ones talking about how you can shift your mindset towards now to start to think about the future. Because what we're going to be able to talk about today are really the implications of having that now mindset with respect to your money, in terms of, I want this right now. There's an awesome sale going on right now. So I'm just going to spend the money now to make me feel good in the present, and how it can truly impact your future. So I definitely encourage you to check out those podcast episodes. So what about where we are right now? And so, as a single mom, it is extremely important to keep your income options open. And one of the biggest reasons is the risk to your household. Because if something happens with your income, if there's a job loss, if there's a pay reduction, because I remember just even working during the Great Recession, where all of a sudden the company decided that they couldn't afford to pay us what we have been paying, and they did a mandatory pay cut. And so during that same time, I had a friend of mine who had her compensation, her straight time plus her bonus, and then all of a sudden her job decided that they couldn't afford to pay people bonuses anymore. So they just cut their bonuses. And for some people, it effectively cut their income in half. And so when you only have one source of income, it puts you at a risk to whatever might be happening in your job market. And it could put some additional pressure on your household. And so, like I mentioned, if your job hours get reduced, or if there's a change in your job compensation or structure, it can truly have a devastating impact on your household income. And so I encourage you, even if you are in a position where you're trying to increase your income to put more money aside for your financial goals, or you're trying to cover some more of your expenses, even if you think things are okay right now, I strongly encourage you to keep listening to this podcast and not tune it out because you don't think it applies to you. Because there's always different ways to help to tighten up your finances and to strengthen the financial health your household. And so one of the big things that I'm a huge fan of is entrepreneurship, or exploring side hustles that allow you to still stay at home with your kids and engage with your kids, and even to expose your children to different forms of entrepreneurship or ways to increase their income. Because I was recently interviewed on a radio show, and the question was the same thing that I'm tackling right now. what about entrepreneurship? What are ways that single moms can increase their income? What if a mom is having trouble meeting her financial obligations? And one of the biggest reasons why I'm a huge advocate for side hustles and entrepreneurship is the ability to really model the behavior for your kids. And that I know a number of single moms who have businesses who have incorporated their kids in their business. So their kids help out in different age appropriate ways. And in some of those instances, the kids have gone off and started their own businesses because they were inspired by their mothers. So it's an amazing opportunity to expose your kids to entrepreneurship early. And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is starting a side business. And so when I say side business, I mean starting a business that you can do outside of your normal work hours. So if you're trying to think about what type of business to start, think about the things that people ask you to do and then build your business around that. So this can be simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? It can be as simple as charging for that sweet potato pie people ask you for. It can be as simple as baking cookies. And there was a mom that I interviewed over in the Phenomenal Moms Facebook group who worked a regular job, but then she also had a business where she baked cookies, and she was able to earn enough money from her cookie business that she was able to send her daughter to Japan, and she had enough left over where she was able to help fund the trips of other children of single moms. And so it just really grew from people just loving her cookie recipe. And I know moms who do nails and have shops within their house. And they have word of mouth clientele who come into their homes to get their manicure, pedicure, facials done. I know moms who do hair outside from their own households, and they're able to keep their kids close, and they're able to really interact with their kids while they're servicing their clients. They're able to interact with their kids in between clients because they're able to work in a way that allows them to create their own hours, but to also create an environment that allows their kids to be a part of their day-to-day activities. And so that's a great place to start. Start to think about the things that people are already asking you for. Let's say people are always complimenting you on the clothing that you put together, especially like if you're a busy single mom and you're exhausted and they're telling you how amazing you look every day. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to consult with other single moms who might feel like they're losing their sense of style. That might be an area where you can help. So start to think about things that allow you to monetize the things that people are already asking you for. Another idea that I just thought about is if you're crafty, if you know how to make your own jewelry, or if you make handmade goods, consider starting an Etsy shop and selling your items on there. And so that's an amazing way earning extra income. It's relatively low risk because if you're monetizing the things people already ask you for, you might be able to do it in a cost effective way. And the cool thing about it is you can allow your kids to see how you're building your business, and that can serve as motivation for them to start to think about how they too can monetize their own talents, because kids are creative. I remember seeing a story about how in schools nowadays, how they're pushing some of the unhealthy things out of the cafeterias and the vending machines, and kids recognize the void in the market. Like kids like sugary stuff. And so what they started to do was to buy candy in bulk from like places like Costco or Sam's Club, and they started to sell it in the schools. And even before some of these sugar bans started to happen, they would see how much it would cost in the vending machine, and they would just undercut the price of the vending machine. So kids are creative. And as you start to expose them to more things, their creative juices will start to turn, and then they can get inspired to even do certain things on their own, which is really cool. The second idea I have is to become a mystery shopper. And a mystery shopper is a person who gets paid to pose as a real customer. This customer will quote unquote shop the assigned store and provide the company with valuable feedback regarding the store's appearance, the shopping experience, and even the adherence to store policy. And this is all done to improve the shopper's experience. Because if you think about it like this, if someone is announcing that they're going to come to the store, like if management is announcing that they're going to come to your job to audit and survey the workplace, everybody's going to be on their best behavior. But if people don't know, then they're going to act normal. And that is what the mystery shopping is designed to do. And this is actually something that I used to do at one point when I was trying to earn, this is a number of years ago when I was trying to earn some extra money. I used to mystery shop at malls. I used to mystery shop at restaurants. And it was a really cool experience. So one thing I'm going to warn you about is that if you mystery shop at restaurants, please just do what the people on the Food Network do, and they just taste the things. Like, you don't have to eat the whole burger because you're mystery shopping. Because I ended up gaining some weight after mystery shopping a bunch of food places. I'm just telling you this to be real. But one of the other things is that with mystery shopping, try to think about how mystery shopping can fit within your current schedule. And what I say is this. So if you know you're going to be out at a certain location, then try and plan your mystery shops around that location. Plan your mystery shops around where you work. Plan your mystery shops around your commute to and from your job, because that will allow you to save money on gas, and it will allow you to save money on your time. To save your time as well. So you're not spending a lot of extra time. That's one of the things that I learned when I was mystery shopping, because there were some places that I mystery shopped that were literally like 20 miles outside of where I would normally go. I didn't have any reason to be on that side of town, but yet I found myself driving 30 minutes trying to get to and from the mystery shop just to shop. And so it kind of ate away at the profit and the money that I was able to earn, because I just used so much of my time and my gas to get in and out of the place. And so if you are interested in mystery shopping, look at places like Bestmark or Sinclair Customer Metrics or Market Force. I actually used to shop through Market Force and IntelliShop. So these are different places where you can mystery shop. And don't worry, I will put these in the show notes just so you can have quick access to these as well. So that's another way of earning additional money. The third thing I would say is join a multi-level marketing company. And these really get a bad rap because some companies have behaved in unethical ways. Some recruiters or some participants have behaved in unethical ways. But multi-level marketing in and of itself is not bad. You just need to find the right product that makes sense for you and your lifestyle, and you have to find the right company. So before joining a multi-level marketing company, make sure it sells a product that you feel comfortable referring. Make sure it's a company that has ethical leadership. And I can tell you from personal experience that I have actually been very successful in a multi-level marketing company, and participating in a multi-level marketing company and being a distributor allowed me to earn extra money to pay off some of my student loans. I ended up getting card qualified. And so there are some legit multi-level marketing companies out there. You just have to find one that makes sense for you, that you feel comfortable with, and that the leadership is solid. But one of the cool things about the multi-level marketing companies is the good ones will offer training. And so the training not only will help you become a better distributor, but it will also help you to grow as a person, and it will even help you to develop skills that you can take back to your job or to a side business that you are building. And that's one of the ways that I used it. So I was a distributor, I was earning extra income, but it also helped to teach me more about entrepreneurship that I was able to use to help me grow effing phenomenal and become a better entrepreneur, a better person, and a better mom. So again, check out multi-level marketing companies. And I want to say one more thing about this is that this is another thing that you can allow your kids to really watch you build. When you're going to meetings, when you're going to show people, you can bring your kids along. And so if you're going to show people and your kids are old enough, just kind of have them sitting close where you can watch them. Maybe they can do homework, but you don't have to be apart from them as you would have had to be if you were working a second job. So the next thing is to sell your old stuff. And so one of the things that I've noticed, like on Facebook groups, Some of the people are cleaning up just on selling the stuff that their kids no longer need or the things that they no longer need. I actually have a friend of mine who has a Facebook group dedicated to her having a closet sale. And so she just gave birth to a new child. And so, in order to prepare for the arrival of her son, what she was doing is she was making room in her house to be able to add in the new baby clothes, to add in the new baby furniture. And it required her to get rid of some of the things that they already had. And so she has a great sense of style. And so what she started to do was sell her old clothes and shoes on Facebook. And it was allowing her to generate some extra income. I've seen other people sell their stuff on Facebook groups or in other groups or in other companies such as ThreadUp or even Once Upon a Child, and they're able to make enough money from their old stuff where they just use it to put that money towards buying their child's next size up clothing and shoes. And so there's different things that you can do in terms of selling your old stuff. So it's not just sitting there, just generating dust. So, or clutter within your house. And so that's another thing, cleaning out your closets and allowing yourself to generate some income from it. So again, look at Facebook groups for your local communities. Look at places like Plato's Closet, Once Upon a Child, Clothes Mentor, or you can even do ThreadUp. And ThreadUp is really cool because it's an online marketplace. So you're able to box up yourself and send it to ThreadUp, and then they'll list it for you. And again, I'll list some of these things within the show notes as well, so that way you have it. The next idea is to become a virtual assistant. And this is an area that isn't as popular, but I'm noticing that it's becoming more popular and it is really picking up in steam. And the reason why this is so amazing is because there's so many small businesses, solopreneurs, executives, and professionals who need help getting things done because they have very little time. And I can tell you from personal experience that having a virtual assistant really can free up your time to help you to focus on the higher value things that you can work on as a small business owner. And so my virtual assistant used to help me with research. She used to help me to repurpose certain things that I already did. If I had an idea, I can write it out and send it to her, and then she can make it look pretty. And there's other people who use their virtual assistants to post their blog posts for them. So they'll write it and then they send it to their virtual assistant to actually do the posting and get the images and things like that. There's other people who use their virtual assistants to manage their calendars and their email boxes. And so there's a lot of different things that virtual assistants can do. And the thing is if you're organized, if you like helping people, if you're good at research, there's different areas of specialty that you can do within the virtual assistant branch. And so there is a post on Single Moms Income, the Single Moms Income blog, that has a great information about how to get started in the virtual assistant arena. The next thing I wanted to talk about is maximize your income in your current field. And this one I think is extremely important, and I don't hear it talked about as often when people discuss ways to earn extra income. And the reason why I wanted to include it is because not everyone's going to want to get a second job. Not everyone is going to want to build a side business. Not everyone is going to want to monetize their talents. But if you're already employed, don't allow anyone to make you feel bad about having a job. Having a job working in a 9 to 5 is perfectly okay. So please don't feel bad about it, because I know that if we look at Instagram or we look at social media, it's like everyone has a job and in a hustle and a hustle. It's like no boss, like girl boss or whatever. But if that's not for you, then that's not for you, and that is okay. But one thing that you can do is maximize your income in your current field. And by that, I mean looking at ways that you can position yourself for raises, for promotions, and for bonuses. And so, for example, start to document the ways that you're adding value to your company. Start to document cost savings or innovative projects. If you're in a meeting and you hear your manager or your supervisor or even an executive talking about an issue that they're having in the company, volunteer to help them solve it. Start to get yourself out and be seen by different areas in your company. Because the more people who can be advocating for you in the HR meetings, the more you make yourself an invaluable asset to your job, the more you're able to position yourself and ask for the raise that you deserve. And so don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to say, hey, at the performance reviews, this is how I've contributed to the company. Research what the average wages are or average income is for your position. Look at places like glassdoor.com and start to do your research and understand that. Ask your mentor, ask for people who are advocates, ask people who you trust in your company about how you can start to position yourself to get that raise or to get a bonus, or maybe renegotiate how you're compensated so that way you can position yourself to earn extra money because you're already at that job. So the last idea I have is to create stock photos. So this one is, if you love photography, then selling your photos can be a great opportunity because many bloggers and companies purchase stock photos to use on their sites in their marketing material. So someone has to provide those pictures, so why not you? One thing to recognize is that with this, it's not a get paid quick side hustle. You'll need to make sure that the images meet the requirements of the stock photo site. Therefore, as you learn the requirements and specifications, you may experience rejection. So you might have to upload like 200 images per month if you're just getting started, or even 50 to 100 images per month if you're more experienced. And so there is a great website called Everything Microstock. And that site has a lot of information on there about what you need to do in terms of positioning yourself to sell your photos, the right equipment that you need, how to take the pictures, and even the best sites the best sites that exist that you can potentially sell your photos to. So I definitely encourage you to look into that. So I have just shared 7 different ways that you can increase your income without getting a second job. And so as you see with this, these are all things that allow you to still spend time with your kids as you're building up that side hustle or that extra income. And the level of time commitment varies depending on which route you choose. But the cool thing about this is that these things allow you to involve your kids in what you're doing, and it allows you to still be able to spend some time with them while being that good example about what it means to earn extra money, what it means to be an entrepreneur. So that brings me to today's phenomenal tip. And so there's so many options to increasing your income without getting a second job. And you probably noticed throughout some of the different options is that some of them might take more time to be able to see a return. Some of them might take more time in terms of the effort that you need to put in it. But with this phenomenal tip, I want to say is look at these 7 different things that I just mentioned and see what fits well or will fit the best for your lifestyle. See what makes the most sense for you and your children. Pick one thing, see if it works. If it doesn't, that's okay. Then pick one other to try something different. Don't try and do all of these at once. Just pick one that you think makes the most sense for your life and run with that.